स्टार्ट हो गया करो
सही है यार, सही है, बिल्कुल सही है। थैंक यू फॉर पुटिंग मी इन दिस स्पॉट।
वही
Hello. Bring a Smile presents its new series, TV Time with a Smile. This is Mahima,
एंड आई एम आदित्य
and this is the first episode of TV Time with a Smile.
well we have named the episode lovers because first of all we need to tell you about the entire reason or the need of this particular series as psychologists we here wanted to discuss the influences that different characters from our very favorite shows tv shows or movies they come and they play in our lives we need to understand how much we need to get influenced or if we don't need to be influenced but just admire the characters in general a lot of this and moreover when we are talking about adolescence we need to understand that adolescents are in a stage or an age where they get influenced very quickly from peers and now with the advancement of technology over broadcasting television and movies so mahima why don't you tell us what we are going to discuss today.
Today we are going to talk about our favorite TV couples, these beautifully written and amazingly portrayed people, portrayal of love, and yeah, how we relate to them, how we expect such kind of relationship, such kind of understanding in our lives.
Actually, that's more than enough for a reason to discuss these because no matter how wonderfully they've been written and how much we admire and adore these couples and these characters in general, it's not actually meant to be followed or pursued in real life. Adolescents in themselves need to understand that when they look at these couples and they, define love and relationship and romance in their lives, they cannot take examples from these couples. There might be a few instances which might come in handy when we discuss such things, but all in all, you cannot create a template of such relationships. These templates create an irrational expectation from your partner, and which subsequently leads to a lot of stress and burden over them.
Yes, that's true. Um, Not only we just expect our partners to be in a certain way, we somewhat put a pressure on them to act certain ways, to do certain things for us, and this sort of overburdens the relationship. It makes it less organic.
Very true, actually. It does make it very inorganic or artificial, or in some cases just superficial to show. And nowadays, with social media in their advancement, these shows, these couples, and these characters ex- creating a design or a structure for a relationship or a romantic interaction with someone, it kind of becomes very superficial. And when we talk about superficial relationships, it leads to public display of affection on Instagram and Snapchat, or thinking about some show from the 90s which has set an example over why a particular couple is so adorable. You expect these things to be in your own life. You expect that when you see a Ted Mosby kind of a person in real life, he will lead to a Tracy or a Robin. We will be starting the episode with our first couple, which is basically a triad that is Ted, Robin, and Tracy. So, when we talk about Ted, Robin, and Tracy, even Mahima has seen the show, and I have seen the show, and I'm hopeful that a lot of people who are watching this have also seen How I Met Your Mother, a 9-year long series which describes a person's tryst with love, how he tries to be optimistic throughout the 9 years and finding someone with whom he can spend his life. Now, when we talk about Ted, Ted had two very significant partners, and we are going to discuss both of them one by one. The first one is Robin. Robin, a very competitive woman. a very adventurous woman, someone who theoretically stands in the category or the term opposites attract with Ted. When we talk about Ted, an optimistic romantic who is very much, you know, living in his idealistic world that he will find his soulmate and then they will live a happy life together, and that is it. Someone from, when he's 25, he's trying to plan his entire life for the future. Robin, on the other hand, was someone who did not seek the same things. She was more career oriented, she was more competitive, and she wanted to lead a life which was not well planned. That Ted does meet someone uh, like himself and finds Tracy. Tracy, who is an idealistic match. Now, when we talk about these three characters, we can consider that Tracy is somewhat very much falling into the template of expectations that Ted had for his partner. And when we talk about this, we understand that when we are looking for a relationship, the expectations should not be bent. A person, if they have a certain expectation from the partner, whether it's compatibility, just understanding, or even listening to each other when they want to talk, all of these things should be absolute, and one should not change them in order to seek a perfect fit or a perfect sense of compatibility with someone just for the sake of attraction. And someone who watches this show in their teenage or in their young adulthood should also think about these things when they talk of compatibility. One should not just change their compatibility, their likes and dislikes, because of the attraction that is created from the beginning. Now, Mahima, do you have any other couple who has an idealistic or a very realistic approach?
Yeah, actually, this one couple who has, I don't know, even I've idolized in some ways, is Jack and Rebecca from This Is Us. Now, when I was watching the show, it felt like they are so perfect. They're always there for each other. They, it's like their center of universe is e- um each other only. And now that I was thinking about why is it, what makes this couple so perfect, um, I realized this one thing, that they didn't have a social life, which is very funny. I mean, you you you've lived a life before meeting this person, and you have people and you have experiences from that life, your family, your friends. They don't just go into the back seat when another person comes into your life. But this show, which is amazingly written, it has all the characters so beautifully written and portrayed. But still, it had this, just I don't know, maybe to show what an ideal couple should be. They forgot this factor of their own personal social life. Now, for everyone who has not seen the show, Jack is actually a war veteran, and also he's broke, and he has an alcoholic, abusive father, and he wants to be anything but him. Whereas Rebecca is, she is from a wealthy family and has almost perfect life, uh, in whatever time they had they have the story based. She has a perfect life, but they meet, they fall in love with each other, and then they just forget everything that they had. And probably this is the reason that they had such a perfect life. They were so spouse oriented, house oriented, children oriented, maybe because they didn't have anything else, which is not possible, right? And as you said, these characters are written, these characters are played, but these are not lived. So yeah, this there is there are a lot of idol couples in TV, but we have to see, like, what can be the source of them being such ideal couples, of them not having these fights, not having these contradictions. And as you said, like, for Ted, he had this thing that there is someone who is going to complete him. And I was talking to someone, and he mentioned that he really likes Ted because he thinks that we all have our shares of Zoes and Victorias before we meet a Tracy. But then I thought, what was wrong with Zoe? What is wrong with her? And is it really possible in real life to get that match, to have someone to completely, like the last piece of your jigsaw puzzle? Is it
Right.
possible?
Actually, that is very true about what is wrong with Zoe. Actually, nothing was wrong with Zoe. Zoe was taking her own stand with whatever she felt was right. And that did not match the frequency of what Ted was doing. So when we talk about all the other partners that Ted had through this 9 seasons, we can understand and we can relate to the fact that a lot of us had characters of all the previous partners. We do have traces, and when we talk about how I Met Your Mother, there are three more couples. There's Barney and Robin, there's Marshall and Lily. So a lot of shows have a lot of couples, and some couples are meant or are written in a way that they teach us something. But what happens in reality is that when we adore some couples, we don't assess them or analyze them. So there are very different aspects when a show is written or a character is written and portrayed, which we miss. And through TV Time with a Smile, this is our only purpose to highlight those aspects so that a person who is watching or following the show or pursuing the show with all the dedication, with all the love they have for certain characters, that should not uh, get implied onto their own characters because it hampers or changes or alters the person's personality and behavior. So that is there. So talking of very ideal couples,
This rem
yeah,
Sorry,
talking of the
continue.
ideal couples, these are very good. They are very well written. They are meant to be adored. But inspirations from such couples might have a lot of fallouts and shortcomings. So we should always keep in mind, or we we should take some aspect of those relationship and try to formulate our own understanding of a ideal relationship. So talking about career oriented people and setting career goals with along with your relationship, we are now going to talk about a couple that is probably one of the most famous couples in the history of global TV. We It's going to create an influence, and it is very important for us to understand that we need to consider the two characters separately for their good characteristics and should address the shortcomings if there are any in their relationship as a unit. So we're going to discuss a little bit about Monica and Chandler from Friends. So Monica and Chandler are two amazingly written characters. They have their own quirks. They're funny. They are both of them are career oriented. One realizes it's very beautifully written. Friends in itself is a very beautifully written show, and it makes us realize that someone in their mid 30s is ready to take a step towards creating a new career path. And there we see Monica giving Chandler all the support that he needs. We need to understand that. We also see that Chandler is a very optimistic and giving kind of a person. He tries a lot, and he even he leaves no stone unturned to keep all of uh, Monica's needs at his own desire and tries to fulfill them. So when we talk about these characters and when we talk about Monica and Chandler in specific, we can actually note down a few points about them. First one being the support that they give each other. That is something that you can take up in a relationship. Second part is being career oriented. Just Monica here has a very different sense of competitiveness. Chandler here has a very different sense of career orientation. What he did was something he was good at. He was making good money, but he wasn't happy. He shifted paths. Monica supported. Good enough. But when we talk about uh, Monica not being ready to move to Tulsa, a lot of people thought that this is a selfish move, that Monica is not ready to go to a new place for Chandler, especially when Chandler has never denied anything that Monica wanted. This is where we start to, become prejudiced towards a particular character. We shouldn't do this. Monica was as I said, Monica's career goals were very strong. She was very, she wanted to be a head chef, and she had the offer, so she couldn't go. She was ready to go, but she didn't because there was a good career opportunity for her. Chandler understood that. That is something we should take up from the. When Monica wanted a perfect wedding, Chandler gave in the money. We need to understand that it is again being really generous for going out of the way and fulfilling your partner's needs, desires, and dreams. But when we watch this, it looks very beautiful. On the other hand, when we go on a real time situation, this would not have been the perfect choice. When we think about spending an entire life saving on one party, as Chandler said, that was wrong. And when we think about this in a behavioral and a personality manner, it was somewhere uh, on the verge of being a submissive personality for the partner. Monica, if we analyze Monica's perspective, her dream, her desire, or her childhood wish was to get married in a particular way, but not being financially sound at a point of time should create a sense of understanding that they cannot afford it and hence should not go for it. Probably,
Yes,
uh,
right.
yeah, probably taking up one or two aspects of the dream wedding and spending some of the savings was something that they could have done in a win-win negotiation. But when we talk about a realistic output, spending all the money for one wedding was something very selfish, and people should not be, influenced by such a behavior that. So we shouldn't be, we shouldn't have unrealistic expectations. We shouldn't expect a lot from our partners while, not being able to match the support that they give us. We should create an equilibrium, and that is something that teenage relationships should need. Should know this, and this is high time about it. They shouldn't expect that their, girls shouldn't expect their partners to go and go out of their way and fulfill their dreams or fulfill their wishes. And the same goes for boys. That boys should not have very unrealistic expectations regarding something. For example, in India, boy, boys, especially in adolescent relationships, they have very unrealistic expectations regarding the freedom that the girl should have. The boys that he or she is allowed to talk to. That is again very unrealistic and very, let's just say, stupid. So when we think of such things, a lot of these on-screen relationships, they tend to influence us in such a manner that, you know creating expectations. Expectations in itself is a very important aspect in a relationship, whether it's adolescent, young adults, or adults. So we need to keep that in mind as well when we, consider being in a relationship with a person. There are a lot of aspects in a relationship, and this is again one of the few important ones that we learned from Monica and Chandler, to never adjust or to try to have a synchronized and symbiotic relationship where both the partners are involved equally or contribute equally, instead of one partner trying to fulfill the desires and wishes of all the other partner all the time.
Like, um, guilty as charged, but I finished watching Indian matchmaking. And all these boys, they had this one expectation from girl that she should be accommodating. And the same went for the girls too. They want accommodating partners. How is it possible? And it's probably because of these ideal depictions of these characters, which
It's
are actually very accommodating,
yeah.
that we expect that in real life.
Totally. So even just like you said that about people being accommodating, they set their own bars at a certain level and they expect the other person to match them. But in reality, to create an equilibrium, we need to understand that if the bar is set, it needs to be lower to a level that the other person puts up the certain expectation, their expectations, and then they match to a certain level where both are happy with what they have, instead of being in an unbalanced relationship. So that is there. Uh, Now we talk about someone more, like a very adorable couple that we have, and it's from the Indian OTT platform. It's one of the it's actually the first web series of India. We are talking about Permanent Roommates, and we are going to talk about the very beloved couples, very cutely written couples, Tanya and Mikesh. Now, again, Tanya and Mikesh are have a lot of of their characteristics or aspects common to Monica and Chandler, where Tanya is again very career oriented. Mikesh, on the other hand, is very adjusting, very accommodating, and that looks cute because it's written in a way that it acts turns out to be very cute. But in reality, when we think about the things Mikesh does for Tanya, or the way Tanya reacts to Mikesh's spontaneity and and his unexpected behavior, which was not accommodating enough for Tanya. Tanya wanted someone who was a little more planned, a little more thorough with what they're doing instead of being really spontaneous. So when we discuss this, we understand that Tanya and Mikesh were again a very haphazard couple, and it's very important for us to understand that these haphazardness can look very good, very cute and adorable on the screen, but when in reality some a partner tries to imitate this or replicate this, the other partner or the your boyfriend or girlfriend might not be able to reciprocate with the same kind of affection, feeling, or action just for that matter. We are going to discuss one last couple, and not from the TV shows, but from a very amazing movie, La La Land. Mahima?
That is I think, one of my favorite movies. And the fact it is, it's really practical. Although it has the bittersweet ending where both of them, they don't end up with each other, but then that's what it is. Two individuals fell in love with each other, but because of the pursuit of their careers, um, they don't they can't maintain the relationship, and which in a way is quite real. Like, you can find the perfect person, you can find the soulmate, but that doesn't mean to keep that person in your life. You will go you will you will do things that are not healthy. It's like saying that love is not enough to maintain a relationship, and that's what this couple they portrayed. That although they even in the last scene, in the last sequence, they both tell each other that they are going to love each other forever, but still they don't end up together. And that's very practical because they both wanted different things, and they knew in pursuit of those different things they might end up hurting each other. And then hurting someone, hurting yourself, just because you think that love is it's a tough thing. Say aapka dariya hai. It's not, it does not have to be so tough. Then it only makes the relationship very toxic. And yes, if you had a good time with someone, if you thought that you found your soulmate, it is not really important to stick with it, but that's not real life.
Exactly, and that is what this show and this episode in general is all about. When we started with this, we already told you that clear out some things that consider before you start getting influenced by certain characters who are very well written, well portrayed, and might give you the impression of an ideal situation. But idealism is not that easy. Have a pinch of realism in idealism is what creates practicality, and Mia and Sebastian were the example of that. When Mahima here started off explaining Mia and Sebastian by saying that the end was bittersweet, it's actually practical. But we consider it to be bittersweet only because our mind has been conditioned to a certain expectation of happy endings, where regardless of anything, I have seen movies and TV shows where things are not going in sync. They're not leading towards a happy ending, but somehow in a haphazard manner they just end it on a happy note.
It is like,
Yeah, so that is wrong. And the part, if you understand and if you notice the fact that it was done in a very quick and hasty manner, and the happy ending was not actually in the flow of the entire movie or TV show, you can already understand that these relationships or these romantic interactions between characters are not that real and must not be an say certain aspects
also one
should
thing,
yeah
yeah,
certain aspects should be added up to create something about your own personality, your own self, not someone else, not implement it on someone else, but to just adapt into certain new attributes. You can learn, you can inspire for that manner.
yeah. Also, one more thing to take from the movie is, although they didn't have that happy ending with the one, but they had happy endings.
Happiness,
They were
they had
happy in
happiness.
their
Yeah,
lives. Yes.
they achieved what they wanted and it was good. They could feel good about themselves in what situation or what physical appearance they are in. They felt good about their appearance. They felt good about their financial status. He wanted to open a jazz club. He did it. She wanted to become a successful actress. She did. So that is again a good thing to. So it actually adds up to a happy ending where a person is personally happy. It's not in a
Yes.
codependent relationship. So that concludes our first episode of TV Time with a Smile. Please stay tuned to Bring a Smile campaign on Instagram and YouTube. And we'll be coming up with more episodes regarding different more attributes. This is Aditya.
And this is Mahima. And also tell us what you want us to talk about in the coming episodes.
Yeah, please use the comment section so that we get more ideas and becomes easier for us to think stuff. So we'll see you soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.